What's up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at St. Vitus for a good 12 millionth time. But we are here with my really good friends in Spotlights. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of
Thanks,
course.
man. Thank you.
Of course. A lot of great things have been happening. First of all, happy record release show day, because Hanging by
Thank
Fate
you.
is now, it's been out for about like a month at this
2
point.
weeks.
2 weeks?
weeks.
2 weeks. That was close. But how was the recording for it? I almost called it kind of like your version of Reanimation by taking some of those songs off Seismic and reinventing them.
Nice. The recording was not much because being like a remix album, it was mainly already recorded, and then I basically sent the stems out to the guys that were doing the remixes, and then they just did whatever they wanted to the songs and kind of like flipped things around, added their own sounds, cut things up and made the songs that happened. But Faith, the Cure cover at the end, we recorded. And it was easy. We actually recorded it all in our apartment, besides the drums, which we just did at our practice space.
Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't record the drums on
So
that?
very easy.
Not this one.
Chris was out of town,
I
and
was out of town.
and we were on a time
Yeah.
crunch, so I played on that one too. But next time,
All right. The
Maybe.
next cover.
if he
Now,
shows up.
one, because there was only like a few, there was like, what, 4 or 5 songs on this. What made you pick those specific songs to re-record?
Well, they were. I feel like those. Actually, I picked the one that I did, and then everybody else picked their own songs. So it wasn't like we really picked them. I gave it up to the remixer guys to just pick whatever they wanted to do, and those are the ones they chose. But I mean, I think it makes sense because all those songs have more of an element of like the electronics. So the little synth lines and all those little kind of melodies just lend themselves to be played with for remixes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, it's fair to say that you guys have had a busy 2018, from touring with Igor, from touring, and you're doing your tour with Paul Bear, and congrats, you just got announced to go on tour with Glassjaw and Quicksand.
Yes.
So it's fair to say you had a busy year, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
great, man.
Yeah.
Been super blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. I was
I don't
curious.
know by who, but
Well, well, I was
lucky. Let's say lucky, not blessed. I don't know what blessed means.
I was actually curious because the first time I saw you guys was with Deftones, and then you went on tour. You played with Astronoid, then Melvins, then you're doing Glassjaw and Quicksand, Igor,
Yeah.
Paul Bearer, just so many different bands. There's got to be like a different audience you notice when you're on stage.
Yeah, I mean, every night it's different.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, you kind of see it be more male or more female, or sometimes it's a mix, sometimes it's older, younger. So yeah, it depends on the tour we're doing.
Yeah.
Which is great because we're reaching across to everybody, not just one specific type of person.
Yeah,
Which is
and
nice, yeah.
and I've actually, now that you brought that up, I've noticed that there is quite like a bit of an age difference at each show you guys played, and I actually think that that's really cool. You kind of could tackle all parts of the spectrum.
It was really awesome to see on the Melvins tour that a lot of the crowd was super young, like under 18, or even like 20, early 20s, which is awesome for a band that's been around for 30 plus years. That's like, it's crazy to see brand new fans coming out.
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to them too. They're amazing.
Absolutely. Now, Chris, one question I had for you is because, as a lot of people know, you also play in Primitive Weapons and your time with Gracer and everything like that. I was curious to how different of a mind frame it is for you playing with those projects as opposed to with Spotlights.
Well, Spotlights was interesting because I wasn't in the band when it started, so I was actually listening to them before I even met them. So it was kind of interesting to come from that perspective. And it's been about almost 2 years now, so, at this point now, I feel like there is a chemistry. But with the other bands, Primitive Weapons, I helped to write those songs. And with Gracer, I helped to write those songs too. So that would be sort of like the main difference, but they're also different styles of music, each project. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, I know that maybe you weren't involved so much with the songwriting process with Spotlights. I'd imagine coming from bands that I would consider to be a little bit heavier, that maybe that allows you to bring in some elements, right? Like, or were you just like listening to the music, be like, okay, I'll keep beat and.
I mean, I guess to an extent, I kind of make some of the parts a little more of my own, but I stick to generally what's on there. But Spotlights is actually pretty damn heavy when you think about it too, so it's not too hard to get into that mode when you need to for the certain parts that so yeah, it's a different project, but I think all of us, I like a lot of different types of music, so this project is particularly interesting because it really is so diverse and can fit into a lot of different scenes and worlds, as you mentioned, like the different bands we've opened up for. So that's kind of what's interesting about this band in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I think you guys have an advantage. You guys are very hard to pigeonhole. Like I've heard people call you sludge. I've heard people call you shoegaze. I even heard one person refer to you guys as hardcore, which I don't know where the hell that came from.
Post-hardcore, maybe. Yeah. There's
we
roots
are,
in there.
Yeah, bloody
We all
roots.
grew up on hardcore for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I was curious. So maybe what would you guys like refer to? Do you guys have like an idea of what you would refer yourself to? It's like if you were talking to somebody about your band for the first time.
I just tell people it's heavy rock.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, it's heavy rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's all.
Yeah, but I'd imagine your music is like, I don't think you need to be like a hard rock or heavy metal fan to appreciate your music,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad that people find names to, or like genres to put it in, just because that helps people kind of relate to it or find us through other channels and stuff like that. But like, I don't consider us a shoegaze band in any way, which a lot of people say that.
Well, I saw that when I saw you guys at
know.
that Tennis System show. It almost seemed like
right.
fitting.
Yeah, you kind of see that. But I mean, hey, whatever people want to call it, as long as they enjoy it and listen to it, I'm fine with it.
If you can't think of a genre, just say a word and add the word core at the end of it.
Yeah, core, gaze, or post. Yeah.
Post.
We're post music.
Post shoe core.
Yeah, there you go. We're post shoecore.
Or wave.
Or wave.
Yeah.
Now.
Post gaze wave.
Now, being that I wanted to talk about your cover of The Cure that you did by The Cure, because I really have noticed that bands have been taking very classic songs, like what Disturbed did with Sound of Silence or what Bad Wolves did with Zombie.
Okay.
And did you kind of want to add your own mix to that song and make it a Spotlight song covering The Cure, or did you want to leave as much of the original in as possible?
I think more so wanted to change it up and make it a Spotlight song, but also, I mean, I think if you're a Cure fan, you'll hear different stages of the Cure's records in the recording itself too. Like, I think I tried to kind of like bring it into more of like their later well, not later, but like Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me and stuff like that, where there's more like weird angular guitar stuff going on and noisier stuff, but then also put kind of our lower heavy bassier kind of end to it, and definitely change the arrangement a little bit, and yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody would like to elaborate on The Cure?
I love The Cure, so I mean, I had nothing to do with that, but I was happy when Mario mentioned that he was doing that.
You inspired me,
they're
Chris.
one of my favorite bands, and I think a lot of heavy bands are also really inspired by them. They're not exactly a heavy band themselves, so
Absolutely. I think John from Korn said that was like his big vocal.
a lot of bands, yeah.
I think more than people know, The Cure is like one of the biggest influences. Even if they don't know it, some bands that they were influenced by The Cure in one way or another.
Absolutely. And I have two more questions for you guys. I think it's fair to say that Spotlight's music is very experimental, like, having heavier parts, having more melodic parts, both of you guys bringing in vocals. Do you have like a preconceived idea when writing music, or do you like to experiment, and is there any improv involved?
No, we're pretty set in stone. I think like we figured out a process that works, and basically like we demo everything almost to the point where it's completely finished before we ever get in a room together. Once we get in the room together, we go over it, and if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, we do it. But for the most part, once we play that song, it's like ready to go. And I mean, after we play, touring is when that, like, the improv stuff starts to happen. Like, we've definitely taken songs and, you know, added different parts and made stuff longer, or, you know,
I've noticed that.
we're always messing around with
Yeah.
like the fills and, you know, little guitar things, or like just noise, and I don't know. I think that's when we get the chance to kind of do whatever we want with the songs. But as far as recording goes, we try and keep it pretty kind of not formatted, but it's already ready to go by the time we're in the studio, because we don't have a lot of money, so we try and save time and money by doing that.
Give us your money.
Yeah.
Well, I've noticed that when I'm listening to your music versus seeing it live, it is like a completely different experience, like seeing you guys live than listening to the music. And I guess by adding those changes live, it definitely keeps it interesting.
Yeah, and it keeps it interesting for us, I think. You know, it keeps it more fun.
Yeah, because you play the songs and then you go on tour and you have to play them,
Right,
you
right.
know, every day.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's fun.
the final question I want to ask you is, because you guys are from our hometown, New York, I want everybody's take on New York City and metal, because there's a lot of bands, you know, you guys have toured so much, and I'm so happy for you guys, and a lot of bands have been like wondering, do you kind of cut your teeth in the New York City metal scene, or do you like get yourself more out there by going outside the 5 boroughs? So who would like to start?
Oh man, this is where I can really go wild. Huh?
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
nuts.
yeah, Chris is actually from here,
Born and raised.
born and raised. We're not.
We,
so
yeah, we joke around.
Go ahead,
about that.
go ahead,
You're
you
from
guys.
the hardcore scene, so you're gonna really.
He grew up
know
on the
New
streets of
York, right?
Queens, so
They tease me about it sometimes, but I grew up here, so I noticed a lot of things happen, especially with St. Vitus, which is the place we're in right now. Like, for a long time in my sort of formative years in the 90s, there was a lot of great punk, hardcore, and metal. And before that, I wasn't around, but there was a time period in the sort of early 2000s when it kind of died out. And I think when Vitus came back, or when Vitus started, it really brought a big resurgence that I noticed with a lot of people that I know too, including myself, that sort of brought him back around back to this sort of heavy music scene. And it's just evolved so much since then. I mean, there are a lot of other places that contributed to it too, but I'd say that we probably have one of the best. I think we always had one of the best scenes, and right now especially, it's really huge. And we play places sometimes that you know, you walk in and I feel like I'm at a show in New York, so I kind of feel like it was infectious and sort of spread it around a lot.
Absolutely.
Spread it around a lot. Is that the right word? That's not even a word.
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because I went to where I met Danzig. Well, it was technically my first LA concert.
Right.
So it felt like a New York show, but so it was so weird to hear the Butcher Babies go, "What's up, Los Angeles?" I was like, "Oh crap, I forgot. I can't just
Where
hop
am
on
I?
the subway home."
You should tell everybody that you ran into Glenn Danzig walking around by herself one night, because that's weird. That doesn't happen to normal people.
that doesn't just happen.
And
Yeah.
Special.
and the funniest part about the whole thing is, I'm probably gonna get a lot of haters for this, but I originally thought out of the corner of my eye it was Bill Hudson from Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
I don't even know who that is. So.
I've never seen anyone that looks like Danzig, so that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But
Um,
I know that you guys are not originally from New York,
No.
so I'd imagine
And
you have
that's-
kind of like a different take.
And that's kind of what I was going to touch on, was we've lived in a lot of different cities, and I feel like everywhere has a really good music scene, and you can make it anywhere if you go out and support each other and are positive and nice to each other and not a dickhead. And, you know, no one's better
Which
than
is
anybody.
really hard to do.
Yeah.
I've noticed nowadays.
Yeah, and it's, you know, we're all in this together. It's hard to be an artist or a musician or whatever you want, however you want to look at it. But if you just get out there and support each other and, you know, make friends, I feel like you could really do music anywhere, especially with technology these days. It's pretty
I think
Pretty easy.
The good thing about here in particular is that it's super diverse too. So there's even just in metal, there's all kinds of metal. So you don't have just like a doom scene, or you don't have just like a death metal scene or whatever. You know, there's all kinds of heavy music going on all
Absolutely.
the time.
and everyone supports each other.
Right, and the local scene is really good. So I mean, and I think it has to do a lot with this place. I feel like
Sonnet
it's grown.
mentioned that in our interview with them.
Yeah, it's
actually.
really
Yeah,
grown
it's
the
awesome.
scene here. I mean, even in the 5 years we've lived here, we've noticed it just, you know, really help out.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it too much, but there was a time when you would go see Godflesh and VOD at the same show. So like, I don't know if it was like that in other places, but that was such a great thing to be around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
awesome.
I really wish, like, I remember seeing Arch Enemy Trivium While She Sleeps and Fit for an Autopsy at the same concert, and like,
That's way too many bands.
really? There's
it
no
a
such.
festival? Was
No,
it-
it was a
okay.
concert. There's no such thing as.
Sounds like a festival.
but like, it was diverse and everybody had a good time.
Alex,
No,
that's
that's
your
awesome.
dream, like an 18-hour show.
I prefer 24. But
I'm sure anyone watching can tell that we know each other.
exactly.
You're close. I mean, you go to enough to where it's
Yeah.
almost one big show.
Yep, I'm doing 2 tonight.
That's awesome.
I do want to say something though. Like one of the things I learned from these guys, growing up in New York, sometimes the scenes can be cliquey, and so when I joined Spotlights, it kind of opened up my eyes. If you're really nice to people, so simple. I didn't know that growing up because everyone was so competitive. Being nice to everybody and me can go a long way, just in life in general. But
Yeah.
so yeah.
People are gonna find it hard to believe that New Yorkers are the ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's true.
And before we go, just your usual, I always save the most stereotypical, most typical, like, the most shallow question for last. What could we be expecting for Spotlights? I know that you have the tour with Paul Bearer coming up. You have the tour with Quicksand and Glassjaw.
Yeah.
What else could we be expecting for the rest of 2018?
I can't tell you yet. One more thing, but other than that, nothing. Just
Really?
nothing. Not in 2018. No, we're not doing anything else.
Working on. New
Yeah,
stuff.
we're gonna work
Yeah.
on our new record and disappear for a while. I think.
Yeah.
Please play
Get some
still.
rest. Yeah,
Much needed sleep.
we'll see, but
Yeah.
we have some
Yeah,
stuff
we
in
have
the
some
works for
stuff.
October,
Yeah.
and then after that we'll disappear for
Start
a bit.
working on
But
our record.
we'll come back strong in
Yeah.
2019.
Yep.
I hope.
Yeah, I'd imagine by now, because you were on like the tour with Melvins for like 3 months, and then
Yeah.
and then you had like another tour right afterwards, and I'd imagine
Yeah.
you guys could use a break, right?
It's been. I mean,
Yeah,
I would be
mean-
on tour forever if we
Yeah,
could be,
I
but
would
yeah, I think it
that.
might be a smart move to take a little break for a bit.
Yeah, spend some time with Boris, your favorite cat.
Exactly.
Mhm,
Yeah.
the dickhead
Punch him
cat.
in the face.
Yeah.
We don't punch our cats. I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm gonna piss off the animal rights people.
We definitely do not. punch
They're all very spoiled.
I'm kidding. They own like 25 animals. They love animals.
But so great to have you guys.
Thanks, Alex.
Everybody,
Thank
we are
you.
here with my good friends in Spotlights. Pick up Hanging by Faith. It's absolutely beautiful. Catch them on their tour with Paul Bearer. Catch them on the tour with Quicksand and Glassjaw. And catch them on that thing that they're not allowed to talk about. They'll be announcing it shortly. We'll see you
Subscribe
next
to
time.
his stuff.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Of course. We'll
Alex.
see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
And be nice to each other.
Do it.